actually an editor of it. When you do all the math, how many animals, land animals, and including birds, were on the ark?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier you have just under 1,400 kinds, but then you've got to do 2 of each kind. But the Bible says to bring 7 or 7 pairs, depending on which translation you're reading, because the Hebrew scholars aren't completely in agreement on whether or not 7, a male and a female, means 14 or 7. So we went with 14. We always went with a higher number, just so that people can accuse us of cheating.
ここ危ないからです。ここができないと向こうの方から U ターンしてくる時もあるし、こっちがあまりにもひどい場合は。
6,700 animals on the ark, according to your calculations, given the number of animals you thought, and you're using approximately, no one knows the exact date. How far back was this Noah's Ark?
So if you're using the Masoretic text, you're roughly 4,400 years ago. If you had the Septuagint, that would push it back by 650 to 780 years. So, 5,000, a little over 5,000. So, yeah, we'd say about 4,400 years ago.
Okay, so at that time, you're using what was known at the time, or what you knew about that time with regard to the number of animals that were alive. You did all the math, it's all in the book. You've got about 6,700 animals on Noah's Ark. You've got 3 decks, over 110,000 square feet, and you say all this fits.
Yeah, well, when I said 110,000 square feet, that's our exhibit space. Well, right, you've seen it, the huge ramp, and you have more space than that.
More than that, okay.
Yeah, it actually fits really well. Or it fits, I would say, like Goldilocks. It's not too small, too large. It's just right, which is what we'd expect. God is the one who told Noah how big to build the ark. It should fit right. But that's when we're accounting for all of the food they would need, for all of the water that they would need. And then we actually made the cage size a little bit bigger than what would be required. And they do fit.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, when you go see the Ark Encounter, you'll see all this. You'll see all these cages. You'll see all these storage jars.
このエルドラドっていうのを右に行くとヨガのクラスのすぐ近くにあるから。
God said he would bring the animals to the ark. Obviously,